What's up guys, welcome back to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/MaliciousCompliance with the bonus story from r/ProRevenge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode. This story's called, It Wasn't on the Load Plan. In the 80s, I was in the army and stationed in Germany. When I originally arrived in my platoon, we had a great platoon sergeant and a terrific platoon leader. Our platoon was number 1 in the whole battalion for pretty much everything, and life was good. Fast forward about a year and we both got a new platoon sergeant and a new platoon leader within weeks of each other. But we figured life would go on, and seeing as how we were already the best in our battalion, things should continue on pretty much as they were. Unfortunately, the new crew had other ideas. For some reason, they felt that, although we were the best, they were going to break us down and make us better. Their thoughts being we had obviously been ineptly led by nincompoops. We understood that everyone wants to make their mark when they get to a new unit, but calling us all to a formation and telling us we were essentially worthless and weak didn't have the intended effect. After running us around for a month basically, attempting to change all of the things that we did that worked into their version of a team of monkeys shagging a football, it was time to go to the field. In those days, we had the old school army jeeps that towed a trailer full of all the fun things that we took to the field, and of course, some things we probably shouldn't. To combat this problem and to promote good organization, we were required to have a load plan. Each box was assigned a spot in the trailer and was labeled as to its contents. The rule was, if it isn't on your load plan, then it isn't going on the trailer. This was rigorously enforced by all of the newly promoted sergeants who had nothing better to do than to tell all of us minions to scurry about and attempt to earn their praise. We of course tried to stay as far away from anyone with too many stripes and fled to the motor pool only to make brief appearances when absolutely necessary. For a little background, our new lieutenant was prior service enlisted and went to college on an ROTC scholarship, got his commission and re-entered the military as a freshly minted second lieutenant. We all figured that he'd probably experienced bad leadership. So, having the benefit of being on the receiving end of said bad leadership, he'd know how things were supposed to be done. And we were wrong. He had the worst case of, do as I tell you, not what I do, that I've seen in a very long time, and he seemed to take great pleasure in our misery. For our first foray into the field, led by our intrepid leaders, we were explicitly told that if the army didn't issue it, we weren't allowed to take it with us. This included any clothing that was civilian in nature and could keep us comfortable and warm. It also included any food items that were actually edible because C rations were good enough. Spoiler, they weren't, and all of you sissies that complain about MREs, meals ready to eat, can try eating ham and eggs out of a can. As we were loading up, I was called into the orderly room where a fairly substantial footlocker was sitting open. Inside was quite an assortment of snack cakes, crackers, sausages, and all manner of other goodies, all of which were prohibited. Of course, since this locker was owned by the lieutenant and the platoon sergeant, it was considered official equipment and quite necessary. Just as I walked into the room, they slammed the lid and placed a padlock on the box, assuming, incorrectly, that I hadn't just seen the Ark of the Covenant of junk food. I was then ordered to take the top secret box of delights out to the Jeep and stow it with everything else I was tasked to keep track of. Shortly after I found room in my trailer, one of our sergeants, an E5 that was only a sergeant because they either had to promote him or get rid of him, asked my co-driver to show him the load plan. Remember, this is the official document that says what can and cannot be in your trailer. After a thorough inspection, the wayward box that wasn't supposed to be there officially was located, and he asked what the box was and what was in it. My buddy told the sergeant that he had no idea what was in the box or how it got in the Jeep, and was ordered to take it out of the trailer and deposit it in the basement, or we would both be subjected to some sort of punishment befitting our attempt at smuggling some sort of deadly contraband. Since nobody asked me, I just remained respectfully quiet, and then I, being the obedient soldier that I was and wanting to follow orders, picked up the box, and found a nice dark corner to deposit it in so that it would be safe and waiting for us upon our return. When we got to the field, the lieutenant and platoon sergeant started inquiring about their box, so I told them that Sergeant Doofus made us take it out of the trailer. According to the complaining parties, that precious box, officially, contained all manner of equipment that was totally necessary for us to successfully complete all of our missions in the field. Thankfully, we seemed to miraculously have a second set of everything that was supposed to be kept in the box, so the day was saved. So you can say that this is the story of how, anytime we went to the field from then on, there was always a bit of extra space for the odd box of creature comforts, and nobody's load plan was checked at a microscopic level anymore. I always love silly stories from the military like this because, the military has such a serious, rightfully so, but has such a serious connotation that, stuff like this is a nice palate cleanser from all the dark stuff you're used to hearing. I don't know, it's pleasant. Let me know in the comments below if you have any silly military stories. This story's called, You Want Contact Numbers? Fine, you may have them all. Some quick backstory. I'm a customer service rep for a very large aged care service. My job is to help people navigate this labyrinth we call a company so that they can hopefully speak with the right person on the first try. My calls can come from clients, their families, external business, and even staff members on the odd occasion. Today's story is a small interaction with a registered training organization. We occasionally get calls from them looking to get placement for their students. The process is quite simple. Normally, they just need to call and speak with a relevant care facility directly. I would normally just ask a quick question or two to find out which facilities they are interested in and provide the relevant numbers. We have somewhere in the realm of 18 different facilities, and it's pretty easy, just based on location, to narrow that number down to 2 or 3. My interaction with today's caller went as thus. It is worth mentioning that not once during all this did my sickeningly positive customer service attitude drop. Good morning, welcome to X. My name is OP. How can I help you today? Hi, I'm from Registered Training Organization. I need to look at getting placement for my student, S. That should be no problem at all. You will just need to call the individual facilities and check availability with them directly. May I ask you some quick questions so that I may narrow down the options for you? No, just give me the numbers. Sir, I do not need much. I just need to know a rough location for the student so I can recommend the facilities nearby. There's radio silence for about 5 seconds, a century in phone time. Sir, are you still there? Just give me the numbers already. Sir, we have a large number of... I don't care. You obviously are not the person I need to speak to. Just give me the numbers already. No problem, sir. Do you have a paper and pen handy? Yes, go ahead. Proceed to give him just the names and numbers of each location in order of most obscure facility location. This can be extra confusing as all the facilities have weird names like Jacaranda or Cinnamon Court. 5 facilities in. Okay then. I keep reading. 10 facilities in. Wait, hold up. I keep reading. 15 facilities in. Are you serious? I keep reading. All 18 facilities read out. And that's the last one. You just need to call each of those individually and check their availability. Is there anything else I can help you with today, sir? No, I think that's all. Wonderful. Well, sir, you have a lovely day and thank you for calling X. Goodbye. Click. Moral of the story. When calling the customer service line, actually take a moment to listen to the rep. They can normally save you a lot of time. Yes, as much as I hate calling customer service, they usually do help more than, having to use the website or something like that. But regardless, customer service sucks to deal with. It either takes forever, is really difficult to navigate, or it's both. It's never convenient. This story's called, You Want Me to Go Back and Get the U-Haul Truck That Won't Fit Through the Drive-Thru. Okay, my wife and I had just driven 17 hours to our new state. We had to stay in a hotel and wanted to get some food for the night. I saw a Jack in the Box around the corner, so I figured I'd go grab us some food. We had to park the U-Haul truck nearly a mile away from the hotel because it was huge and also because it's freaking California. I didn't want to walk all the way to the truck just to not be able to fit it in the drive-thru. So I walked over. It was late and the main storefront was closed, so I walked to the window. I said, hey, we just moved here and I have a moving truck, but it won't fit through the drive-thru. The lady says that she can't serve me without a car and I need to go back and get my U-Haul. I told her it wouldn't fit. We go back and forth. I'm even willing to pay double at this point. I try everything imaginable to avoid the ignorance of driving a U-Haul through a drive-thru that won't fit. Still, she says no. I go, okay, I'm gonna buy 100 tacos when I come back. Is that what you really want? She didn't care. 30 minutes later, I make it back with the U-Haul. I drive it into the drive-thru, almost knocking down the height limit sign. People behind me were like, whatever? I explained the ignorance of the Jack-in-the-Box and they understood completely. I squeezed all the way to the ordering speaker and said, hey, it's me. I'm back and I need 100 tacos. She was like, you were serious? Heck yeah, I was. I backed the truck out to the parking lot and waited. There was a line backed up pretty far because they were not only making my stuff, but the freaking U-Haul took up nearly every spot in the lot, almost blocking the drive-thru. After about 20 minutes, they came out with my tacos. There were 3 big booty bags packed with tacos. One of them ripped open right when she walked out and like 20 tacos spilled out. I said I didn't want them anymore. Hell, I didn't even want a refund. She handed me the other 2 bags. I noticed there was a homeless guy out front. I gave him one of the bags of tacos and I took the rest home. I wasn't necessarily proud of this moment, but if you've ever driven across the country and just wanted some food before bed, I feel like you might have done the same. I mean, I probably would not have, because that's a lot of money, I think. 100 tacos, that's probably a lot of money. And moving in and of itself is expensive as heck. But hey, homeless guy and maybe his buddies too got some good tacos, so can't be that bad. This story's called Just Put Me Anywhere. I work at a cinema, and the other day, I had a guy come up and request to see a movie. I asked if he wanted to see the 2 p.m. session. It was around 1:30 p.m., and he replies, obviously. It's not always obvious to me though, and I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I always check. It's also a thing at my cinema where if you sign up for our rewards program, free to join, you save a hefty amount of cash off of each ticket, so I always suggest joining before selling a ticket. I started my spiel with this guy when he interrupted and said, I'm not joining anything. So I ask if he has any concession cards, and he rolls his eyes and says, no, I just said I'm not joining anything. Which wasn't even what I had asked him. At this point, I'm getting annoyed because I'm just trying to help the dude save money and he's getting annoyed with any question I ask him. I know I have to ask him where he wants to sit, and when I do, he says, in a seat. I ask him if he wants to be more specific, and he gives me the filthiest look and says, this is taking so freaking long, just put me anywhere. It had only been probably a minute or 2 of conversation, so I'm pretty ticked off at this point. So I pick a seat for him. Front row as far to the side as possible in a 400-person cinema with a giant booty screen. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do it. That is malicious compliance right there. At its most basic but most pure, I feel like. This is unrelated, but I used to think that sitting at the very front and center was the best possible seat in a movie theater because you were closer, but then I tried it one time and in practice all it means is a lot of neck pain. This story's called, Don't Want to Trim Your Bushes? I'll Make You Remove Them Completely. I know the title sounds like I'm a 65-year-old man who's constantly running to the front door, yelling at kids on the other side of the street to not play on my lawn, but hear me out. We have been living in a mid/upper class street of my town for around 10 years now. Due to regulations that our real estate agent didn't mention when selling it to my mom and dad, our foundations were set lower than one of our neighbors, which was not much of a problem until the neighbor right in front of us started to grow bushes to seal off his garden from the outside world. We have a small sideway in the street where our and other houses are located, so our houses are just 4 meters apart from each other. When we noticed them getting bigger, we did what every person would do and jokingly reminded him to please keep the bushes in check, so they don't grow too big. They ignored it for as long as they lived there, which freaked my mother out. She's mentally ill, which ultimately led her to not being able to really work anything but a 450 euro job anymore, despite her only being in her late 40s. Me and my brother weren't able to clean our front yard as often as it needed to be clean due to school and university being very stressful. We would have to clean it on a daily basis in the summer because their bushes were shedding leaves left and right. Another thing that was annoying was that our raindrops from our front porch and garage were stuffed up with the leaves and would regularly overflow. Our neighbors then moved out about 1 year ago, and a new couple moved in, who we first thought were nice. Turns out they were even worse than the other neighbors and even mouthier. They made very clear that the sealed-off garden and their house having a higher foundation than ours and the rest of our neighbors' properties were the main reasons they bought it, and they won't change anything about it. My mom was getting so freaked out about all of that she was close to selling the house. Keep in mind that she is ill. The neighbor kept being annoying as hell and even threw parties in the garden, which oftentimes were way too loud and kept all neighbors awake, resulting in us or one of our neighbors having to call the police. So one day my mother looked out the front door and snapped after seeing how many leaves and other crap from the neighbor's bushes were laying in our front yard. She ran out into the garage, grabbed a lawn bag, put a bunch of the stuff that was laying in our front yard into it, and threw them in front of my neighbor's door. Illegal in Germany. A few hours later, my neighbor came to us, being petty and all smug, saying he would sue us and that we would have to pay loads and loads of money for ruining his front yard with our garbage, etc. Afterwards, he took photos of our house and even zoomed into our windows. Illegal as well, which I was lucky to see through my window and record him doing. Then proceeded to look into city regulations and soon found out that we couldn't really do anything about their leaves falling into our front yard, but there is an extra clause in the regulations, which states that this only applies for as long as the other party's living conditions are not compromised. When our neighbor then went through with his lawsuit, I was completely prepared to ruin his day. The judge wanted to make it a quick case, but our lawyer showed her all the evidence that clearly showed him that his leaves were 1. Compromising our living quality by blocking our drains with his garbage, and 2. He was breaking privacy laws by filming our house without consent. Further, my mom has a disabled ID due to her illness, which combined with us telling her, the judge, for how long we had to endure all of this, led to the charges against us being dropped and him having to pay a fee for breaking privacy laws and him having to do something against his bushes. My neighbor was then given 2 options on how he could proceed. 1, he somehow manages to stop the leaves from falling on our property, or he has to tear everything down and has to build another form of protection, which would not compromise our living quality. He had 1 month to find a solution, but ended up not finding one, which led to him having to tear down the whole thing. My mom was happier than I had ever seen her in the past 10 years, and sat through the whole thing. The only thing that was missing to make all of this perfect was her having popcorn. Bah! As someone who's lived quite the suburban life for a good chunk of my existence, I can pretty safely say that annoying neighbors adding annoying things to their annoying yards is, well, annoying. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.